Speaker, it's a pleasure to address the food bill in its first reading, and having listened to all the speakers that have gone before me, I think those who are listening would come to understand that to have somebody standing on the shoulder of everybody that's producing food for sale would be quite impossible, and therefore we need to have a good, solid, reliable food plan that the business itself fully understands. And on that basis, this is why this bill is so good, Mr. Speaker, that it does make it easier for business to fully understand their responsibilities, their requirements, and their undertaking in the preparation of food for sale and food for a whole range of things. So I just want to clear up that point, Mr. Speaker, because when we use the word easier for business, it can be construed at times that we are actually shortcutting. But really in this context in the food bill, easier for business is that it is clear and understandable, well and truly articulated. They can effectively take ownership of it. They can write up their own food plans inside the framework that has been designed, and then they can be audited against that food plan that they have designed by the local territorial authority, all under the overall auspices of central government. So that has got to be very good. I'd just like to take a couple of moments to draw people's attentions to the parts of the bill that I think that really does add value. Section 94 there clearly articulates the ability of exemption for certain persons involved with community-based fundraising activities. The only point I'd raise there, Mr. Speaker, is that with the proposed transition from the existing food regulations to this food bill when it's enacted into law is said to be 5 years. So I certainly hope that it doesn't take 5 years before we start sorting ourselves out around the old sausage sizzle and the cake stalls and the preserves. On the other side of it, I would just like to turn to the Schedule 1, food sectors subject to food control plans. I think this is one part of the bill, Mr. Speaker, that clearly improves the bill considerably because, again, it enshrines in legislation those parts and the very purpose and intention of that framework, and doesn't give anybody the excuse or the opportunity to say, well, it was not clearly articulated, because obviously there has been considerable inconsistencies throughout the country in the way local authorities have insisted on standards. So I believe that this bill is certainly improved, and the government feels that this bill is indeed improved over the previous government's bill by including the massive schedule in the back of it as to what the food control plans will look like. It's also worth noting, Mr. Speaker, that there's a considerable amount of this bill set down for the purposes of articulating the infringement offences, and they go right through the whole process, and they are considerable. Again, the whole tenor of this bill does put the responsibility back on those people that are governed by it, those people that are in the food business, and I think that's very appropriate when you consider that in just over a year from now we're going to be hosting one of the largest sporting events in the world, and possibly the largest sporting event that New Zealand will host. I would like to think it was, but no, it's just going to be headed off by a nose by the Rugby World Cup. So on that basis, one's mind's cast back to 1995 when we were over in South Africa, and we had an incident that really could have cost this country the second World Cup win. Well, I take the speakers on the other side's comment that it did. I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but however, so when we have our 85 to 90, maybe even 100,000 visitors here in 2011, I'm sure that they will go away with a very, very enjoyable experience after the Primary Production Select Committee has applied itself to getting out any gremlins from this legislation so that it does work effectively, that it does serve possibly our largest industry now if not in the future, and that is our tourism industry. If we've got people coming here and they know that lamb in the EU and US is one of the highest protein valued products you can buy, if they also expect our tourism to be the exact same, but we don't actually have the food standards and the food preparation and certainty to present to our tourist visitors, then we are failing them miserably. So, Mr Speaker, it's with great enthusiasm and a pleasure to support this bill, and I recommend it to the House.